You ever have one of those childhood toys you just wish you could make bigger? Well, what if you actually did it? What if you took that memory and scaled it up into a record-breaking aircraft? That's the story we're diving into today. A journey of some pretty wild ambition, a few spectacular failures, and ultimately the magic of flight, all powered by nothing but compressed air. And it all kicks off with this little guy, a classic Air Hogs plane. Oh man, remember these? You'd pump it up, feel that pressure building, and just let it rip. Sometimes you'd get this perfect, beautiful glide that felt like it lasted forever. And, other times, well, let's just say your neighbor probably had a small collection on their roof. But it was that simple joy that planted the seed for a much, much bigger idea.
So the big question wasn't just, can we build another one? It was, can we build a giant? We're talking 3.5 times bigger, with a massive 2-meter wingspan, all running on the same basic principle. So how on earth do you even start to tackle a project like that? Well, you've got to start with the most important part of any plane, the wings.
Right away, they hit the first major hurdle. See, when your power source is literally just pressurized air, you can't afford any waste. Every little bit of drag is an absolute flight killer. This meant the old ways of doing things had to be thrown right out the window. It was time to start completely from scratch. And you can really see the shift in thinking right here. Past attempts were all about just being as light as possible, which, makes sense, but it resulted in these flimsy, inefficient wings that could barely stay airborne for more than 16 seconds. The new goal was totally different. Forget just being light, let's be incredibly efficient. The new mission was all about achieving a super high lift-to-drag ratio. So, the first shot at these new wings was a complete disaster. Imagine this. You've got this beautiful, intricate 3D printed structure, all designed for perfect airflow. But when you apply the heat shrink film to cover it, the tension literally bends and warps the entire wing out of shape. That perfect aerodynamic profile, totally ruined. Okay, so back to the drawing board. The solution was all about adding strength without really adding weight, and it came in 3 key steps. First, use a proven, reliable airfoil design. Second, reinforce that front edge with a super thin strip of balsa wood. And third, slot in some carbon rods to stop the whole thing from flexing and bending. Simple, but brilliant. And the result? Whoa, it was a total game changer. This new wing design had a potential lift-to-drag ratio of 60-to-1. That is an absolutely insane level of efficiency. So with these incredible wings ready to go, it was time to build an engine worthy of powering them. All right, so with the wings sorted, it was time to focus on the heart of the beast, the engine. And this isn't some off-the-shelf motor. No, this is a totally custom-designed 3D printed marvel that runs on absolutely nothing but compressed air. Now, the real secret sauce to this whole engine is a tiny custom-molded seal. The best way to think about it is like a little parachute. When the puff of air hits it, it flares out, catching all that force to push the piston down. But then, on the way back up, it collapses on itself, creating almost zero resistance. It's such a simple, elegant piece of engineering. Now, a lot of people were probably wondering the same thing I was. Why are you messing around with these big, clumsy plastic bottles? Why not just use one of those small, super high-pressure CO2 cartridges? It seems like an obvious choice, right? Well, the answer is actually really surprising. Let's just break it down. On one hand, you've got the CO2 cartridge. It's got a ton of pressure, like 800 psi, but there's not a lot of space inside. Then you have the 2-liter bottle. Way more room, but much lower pressure, only about 120 psi. So which one actually holds more usable air for our plane?
And here is the mind-blowing part. It's not even close. When you look at the air storage to weight ratio, that humble plastic drink bottle is over 14 times better than the high-tech CO2 cartridge. For this plane, it turns out volume is way more important than pressure. The bottle was the undisputed champ.
Okay, so the wings are perfect. The engine is dialed in. It was finally time for the moment of truth. Time to bring all the pieces together and see if this ambitious dream could actually take flight. And the rest of the plane is just as clever. It's got this cool V-tail made from super light balsa wood. And get this, the air bottles themselves aren't just fuel tanks. They're the main body of the aircraft, with a central hub connecting everything together. So smart. So, imagine the scene. The plane is on the runway, you're ready for that first epic flight. But then, you hear it. That dreaded little hiss. A leak. The pressure's only at 60 psi, half of what it should be. So now you have a choice. Do you call it off, or do you risk it all and go for it? They went for it,
And it was a massive success. Even on half power, the plane flew for an incredible 31 seconds, completely shattering the old record. But as amazing as that was, this was really just the beginning. So, with that leak finally fixed and the plane ready for full power, the next flights were set to be legendary. But, as they were about to find out, the world of experimental aircraft is one heck of a roller coaster.
Okay, the second flight. This was it. Full pressure, 120 psi. The launch was perfect, it was climbing strong, and it just kept going. It cruised past the 30-second mark, past the 1-minute mark, and finally landed after an unbelievable 1 minute and 22 seconds. A monumental new record. After that flight, the team was on cloud 9, totally ecstatic. They even strapped an onboard camera on for the next flight. But in all that excitement, they made one tiny mistake. A simple pre-flight check was forgotten. And that one little slip-up was about to have some pretty disastrous consequences.
The second it left the ground, they knew. They knew something was terribly wrong. The tail hadn't been properly secured, and it sent the plane into an uncontrollable death spiral. All they could do was watch as it plummeted back down to Earth.
You'd think that's game over, right? The end of the plane. But when they got to the crash site, they found something amazing. The plane was basically okay. That 3D printed central hub, the part holding everything together, had acted like a fuse. It intentionally snapped, sacrificing itself to save the wings and the rest of the aircraft. And get this. This is the best part of the whole story. They printed a new part, slapped on some tape, and had the plane back in the air the very next day. I mean, come on, you just can't keep a good design down. That's resilience. So the plane has officially conquered the 1-minute barrier, which is incredible. But that 2-minute mark is still out there, just waiting to be broken. The next big idea is to shave off more weight, maybe 10%, so they can strap on another bottle of air. The question really isn't if it can be done, but what new clever tricks and innovations will it take to push the boundaries of air power even further?